Very metronomical. Nicely done.
I've been practicing.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, John.
How's it going tonight?
It's going well. Going well, going well. My house is back to being just lovely wife and myself, which I'm enjoying again. I love my kids. I enjoy their company. I'm happy they have their own lives.
Oh, it's all good. That's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Our house has no visitors in it, but the family is still here, which is good too. Which is good
Yeah.
too. Yeah. So, wow. It feels like a long time since New Year's.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
It's been just 1 week.
And I sent all three kids back on 3 different days because they all had different requirements when they needed to be back.
Of course they did.
And so story time. My boy went yesterday, and he was the last to go. And he was the only one on a connecting flight.
Okay.
So the girls, it was a direct flight. And we realized after we got the tickets that this is the first time he has ever been flying by himself with a connection involved. He's flown direct by himself before.
Okay.
So those are easy. You get on, you get off, you're done.
And you go, yeah.
This one is you have to get to your connecting flight. And it's the same flight as the girls went on, which was late both times.
Ooh.
And so he's getting nervous that his will also be late because as we look at the tickets, there's only a 45, I don't remember what it is, a 40 to 45 minute layover in Salt Lake.
That is not a lot of time.
No.
If you're late getting in and they close the door 15 minutes early.
And we were looking at the gates. This is before we headed to the airport. He was landing in gate A5, and his connection was in gate A49. There is no gate A50. And that building, the Salt Lake, their new Salt Lake terminal is, I think, just under a mile long from end to end.
Holy moly.
Pretty much he's got to trek a mile, in whatever time. So as a positive airline interaction, I think it's easy to complain about airlines and what airlines do.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the airport and we go to the agent assist because he's like, Dad, can I check my bag? And I'm like, I don't want to pay the $35, but okay. Because he's nervous about, having to remember to get his bag and having to run from one side. Like, fine, we'll go check your bag. Let's go to the agent assist and we'll ask them what they suggest to do. Because by this time, we've already seen that the incoming flight is late. So the chance that the outgoing
you're
flight
about to hit 3 out of 3
is going to be late. Yeah. So we're already getting there. So we go up and ask the lady, and she said, well, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 18. And I say, yeah, it's his first time flying by himself with a connection. So we're a little bit nervous because we looked it up and it's A5 to A49, and you land. And she was super helpful. She said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Let's check your bag. And, it's like, I'm not going to charge you because your flight's full and they're going to ask for bags at the gate anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, good. Don't have to pay the $35. She takes the bag and it was this red tag on it that was like sandwiched between the regular white, destination tag. So it looked like a T, a cross there, which said tight connection on it or something to that effect. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so they'll put it towards the front so that when they unload it, they can run it to the new thing. So I'm like, okay.
Put it on a separate little golf cart.
Something. And then the third thing she did was she said, and just in case it's really late, I will actually give you a seat on the 9:30. So this is going to be the 5 o'clock flight. we'll get you a seat on the last flight of the night at 9:30. So you guaranteed will get there tonight. It'll just be a function of do you get there at 6:30 or 10:30
Later.
kind of thing.
Okay.
And so I'm like, that is so
awesome.
And the lady kind of looks at me as, does that make Dad feel better? I'm like, you're my favorite person right now. So he gets on the airplane, and sure enough, it's 15 minutes late, and he's nervous, and it was Delta, and he's got the Delta app, and so he gets the free Wi-Fi on the plane. So he's texting I'm just gonna show late, but the flight attendants all asked that, hey, there are a few people on the flight, he wasn't the only one, that have very tight connections. Can everybody stay seated and let these people off first? And he was like, and I said, well, I hope they did. He's like, yeah, they did. So he's like, he got off the plane first, and I pulled up the little Find My app because I can track his location on the phone, and I see his little dot moving from gate A5
A49
all the way down to A49, and it goes pretty quick till it gets to about gate A30, 33, and then the dot slows down. And I'm looking
Need to
at
work
the time.
on endurance.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the time, trying to say, all right, they usually close the doors 10 minutes before, but he had also said that they will call ahead to the gate agent. And so he gets to the gate right as they're closing the door, and they're asking, hey, so-and-so, please come to the gate. We're going to close the door. He's like, so they were talking to me. He said, I walked up. They said, I'm glad it's you. They beat my pass. They walked me in, and they closed the door behind me. I'm like, perfect. And so then the next chance was, all right, let's see if the bag made it. And sure enough, he got there, and he was like, yep, it says here that the bag is in, the bag is here, and his bag showed up. So it all turned out great. Delta. But yeah, kudos to Delta for A, making me feel better that he would actually get there, and B, doing what they could,
covering all the bases
to help him get it done. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. So
yeah,
what else did you do this weekend? I know one thing.
Yeah. So
I did the same
Friday night, my wife and I went over to some acquaintances' house. I didn't know them very well, but got to know them quite a bit better. And the wife is of the couple that we were at is a chef, and she was like, she really wanted to kind of invite us over for dinner, and oh my gosh, it was delicious. It was really good. She actually the chef asked my wife, what's your favorite food? And my wife was like, well, but I could eat falafel at any point in time. And so the chef made like this hummus plate with a whole bunch of like different stuff that was amazing. And then homemade falafel, and which was stupendously delicious. So, and this, at least the person, the chef, is a vegetarian, and my wife used to be a vegetarian. So I don't know if the whole family is vegetarian or not, but so it was a generally not John type meal, but it was delicious. It was amazing, and awesome. It was process. Like we got there at 6:30. We wound up leaving at like 10:30. Like literally right after dinner. Like it was a event. Right. But it was awesome. It was totally very nice of them, and it was great company, and obviously delicious. So that was fun. And then you texted me literally while I was there saying, "Hey, are you guys here?" And I'm like, no, that would be tomorrow night. So for us. So so did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was.
What
the
was
last
it?
One, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Part 2
with the Oregon Symphony. Yeah, so we have been. I think You've gone to every single
I
one
think we have.
since
I'm
the first
pretty sure
movie.
we did. I'm trying to remember what happened in 2020. Like
Yeah.
did what?
Did they
But
do it or not
yeah,
because of
because we
COVID? Yeah.
like one of my boys missed one of the movies because he was at college. Um, like I think that was just
Right.
last year. But otherwise, yeah, we fantastically started it at the beginning, and which
Yeah.
was
I think
awesome.
we started with book 4.
Yeah,
Like we missed the first 3 seasons, and you had mentioned it several times. And
yeah,
my wife
it
is
was
a Harry
awesome.
Potter fan,
It was
and
it's totally amazing.
it was great fun. It was great fun. So
And this was honestly better than last year because last year's movie, part Deathly Hallows Part 1, basically
and
just is like a slide downhill the whole movie.
yeah, yeah, of
and
course.
and so this kind of closes the chapter and you get to actually have the redemption and everything else and um but it's a very long movie. Afterwards we're like kind of forgot
Hmm.
how there's not a whole lot that happens in the movie, but it's very long. Anyway, anyway, no,
Yeah, yeah.
it's very good. But and I have such a hard time focusing on the instrumentalists, the musicians. I totally get
Mm.
sucked into the screen. My wife, the exact opposite. She totally ignores the screen and is just focused on the musicians the whole time. I'm like, well,
Mm.
different strokes for different folks. But anyway, yeah, very, very, very much enjoyable. So that was our Saturday night,
Yeah,
which was awesome
yeah, it was great fun.
and very, very cool. Um,
Alrighty.
so the big question is: are they going to start again next year, or are they going to do something else? Because they pack the auditorium
Yeah, yeah,
with every one of those movies. And
yeah.
I will tell you, we're at a lot of the other symphony performances. They generally do not pack the auditorium
Hmm.
for the other things. So I understand not every symphony performance can be behind a movie screen for the, entertainment of the masses. But like
I'm
that
sure
seems
they will
healthy.
too.
It seems healthy for the, for the organization.
Well, yeah, and I think the ones we've been to, like we went to the Bugs Bunny
Uh-huh.
one, the Warner
We saw that
Brothers
one.
one.
That was awesome.
That was with a screen, and that was great fun.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to
Jurassic
think.
Park really held up. That was
We didn't
amazing.
go to that one. I wonder if they start doing all the Star Wars movies because those are
Mm,
orchestra heavy as well, or the Indiana Jones series, all the Indiana Jones movies.
feel like, yeah. Ugh.
Because I know they've done Batman and they've done a few.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Well, they do 4 every year.
Yeah.
And generally, the Harry Potter one and
Mm,
then 3 others. But anyway,
yeah. Okay.
I'm kind of hoping that they start again with the Philosopher's Stone next year. But I I could see them starting some other series and something that's
Yeah.
fewer than, was it 8 movies? Um, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see.
All right.
All right. How about some actual security stuff so that we're
So
mostly security.
mine this week I think is probably more titled "Fun Facts About the Internet." So there
Okay.
is a company called Red Hunt Labs
Hmm.
who ran a study on open port 80s that it could find on the internet. This port 80 is the standard port for web
Uh-huh.
servers.
HTTP.
Uh, and if you catch that, that's missing the S. So it's not the secure
Yep.
web. It's the open, who cares, who can see what's going on web. And so they scanned the IPv4 address space, which is 4.2, 4.3 billion potential IP addresses.
Yep.
And they found 42 million IP addresses at
That is
1%?
a shockingly
10%.
high number. That'd be
Yeah.
1%.
1% of the IP addresses had port 80 open.
That is a shockingly high number
So,
to me. I guess I wouldn't have known what to expect, but
yeah.
that's a
So
lot.
some of the fun facts in this article, and there's a few different ones. I won't quote them all, but like they uncovered 25,000 unique HTTP response headers. So, when you ping a web server,
25,000 unique response headers.
which
Holy
basically
moly.
shows they say a diversity of web server configurations and implementations. And this is my favorite quote of the whole article. Believe us, some of these headers made us scratch our heads. So,
Okay.
some of the other things they found in those 42 million open web servers, 500,000 email addresses, 600,000 social media links, and 25,000 cloud storage buckets.
Ooh.
The bulk of which were
Ooh.
Amazon S3 buckets, 78%, followed by 10% Google Cloud Storage buckets, and DigitalOcean spaces made up almost 8%, and then finally bringing up the rear, Azure Cloud with a little over 3%. So,
Why would even an Amazon S3 bucket be exposed on HTTP?
you can set up a web server on your bucket, right?
Yeah, but
You can
on HTTP, like not S?
Yeah, that's the default. You have to put the WAF in
What?
front of it. That's the default is HTTP.
Oh my gracious.
You have to put on
What year is it?
something in front of it. So, on your comment there, here's the stat that I thought was amazing. That of the 42 million that had port 80 open, only 12%, 12.8% did a secure redirection to port 443. So
That was going to be my question.
so they say only 12%. They do make a comment that, hey, there could be some small number doing that HTTPS redirection in JavaScript, but that's not going to be a sizable number. So most of those open port 80s were happily just letting port 80 do its thing.
Okay,
So-
but like, could they have been doing a 503 from the meta header?
Oh, the 302, you mean?
Sorry, I said
Yeah, the
503. Yes, 302.
Yeah.
302.
The redirect. It didn't mention that. And there's some others
Because
like,
I know I had to do that, and thank you for teaching me how to do
yes.
that. If you want to have a GitHub static page that does a redirection, because you don't actually have access to the server config, so you can do it from a static.
But that still redirects you to typically some other website, not the same website with not from HTTP to HTTPS, because it's the index.html on the web server, and it's the same index.html whether you hit port 80 or port 443. So I don't think that one would apply.
Okay.
But I some other quick. The bulk of them were Nginx, 10 million. Apache was 6 million.
I guess that's what kind of surprised me, is like how I would think most of them would be Apache or Nginx.
Or Apache, yeah.
Yeah.
A big chunk were hosted as apparently identified as AWS infrastructure, 1.3 million. Those are probably the open S3 buckets. And another surprising fact, ASP.NET was almost 50% of those
little
open
IIS
servers
servers,
running ASP.NET. What was it? IIS was, it doesn't say the number of IIS, but there was lots. So anyways, there's some other fun facts in there about, what are the fave icons that it shows, and lots of Hikvision IP camera clearly open on the internet.
Just, you're
some
hurting
other
my
things.
soul.
So, anyways, uh, that's kind of the gist of it. It was a fun little article to just kind of have someone say, "Hey, here's what we found on the internet. You think it's secure? It's not as secure as you
We left
thought."
our Python script scanning for a week and a half. This is what we
Pretty
found.
much.
Um,
Pretty much. So there you go. That's my topic for the day.
okay, fun and depressing. Um, yeah, that's way higher than I would have thought. I was thinking though the other day about the fact that remember when we first started this podcast, like most of the URLs that we were pasting into links and chapters were HTTP, not HTTPS.
Yeah.
And that was only like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So I very much remember, not too long after, it was like, hey, most of these are turning into HTTPS. I think that was about the era that Let's Encrypt really kind of took off, and there was a huge push for SSLing all the things.
Yeah.
So okay. So the article I chose tonight is an Objective-C post, which Objective SEE, not Objective letter
need to
C.
update their website to Swifty or something. That's probably taken for other reasons, though.
Probably. Oh yeah. Sorry. I don't get pop culture references very often, but even I got that one.
I has daughters.
So anyway, I was like, I know we've referenced them before, but the last time we referenced them was in episode 281, which happened to be Make Fire Burn Meat. I didn't actually remember what that was, but I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, the post here is kind of a year in review, so 2024 in review.
Yeah.
With the new Mac malware that emerged throughout the year. So this is Patrick Wardle, right?
Yep.
That says, for what is now the 9th year in a row, I put together a blog post comprehensively covers all the new Mac malware. Although when you get to the end of the article, it says more will be appended every day. So I presume he's adding like one per day, and there's like 7 or 8 in there at the moment. So the post might not be done. I don't know what will show up in the next few days, but what's already there is interesting enough. So, and I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember reading some of these. He writes very long posts. Yeah. Very, very, very long.
Very
posts.
thorough.
And this is no exception. If anything, it's N times M. So, anyway, great stuff. There were a couple of comments at the beginning of here that I found interesting, though. Now, I don't know. This is, I think, people's opinions mostly, even though they're couched with numbers. The first one might not just be an opinion. It says, MacPaw's Moonlock Labs noted a, quote, 60% increase of macOS in market share in the last 3 years alone. I don't know.
Market share of what, though?
Again, statistics. Wait. Something, stumping, and statistics. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yes. I forget what the saying is.
That's it.
So yeah. You get to choose your denominator, I think. But I don't know. I presume that means PC market share. But
60% increased amongst Apple users
in like the sales. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe there was a reference in the article, but I didn't pull it out into my notes. Second, even more opinion-based statement is, and this is from Jamf, who, by the way, does enterprise management of Macs, so they are unbiased to the extreme, says, quote, Mac will become the dominant enterprise endpoint by 2030. Oh, really? I mean, I have no doubt that is massively on the increase. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that I'm throwing them under the bus. I don't know I don't know the underlying data for this, but both of those statements caught me by
Mm-hmm.
interesting, interesting.
You and I have been longtime
I
Mac users, so
yeah. Well,
we're already
my joke,
in the boat.
and I probably said it on the podcast. You know, it's BSD with a better interface.
Yeah.
So, um, uh,
Uh,
okay. So anyway, so that's kind of the beginning of it.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So I pulled out a couple of these. I pulled out a couple with some more
Yeah.
details, but then some other references. But so Info Stealers had the most examples. And again, I don't know if this is just because this is what he's getting to and he's getting to more stuff at the bottom, but he had a bunch of stuff on Info Stealers. Not very many ransomware, not very many backdoors.
Yeah. Sure.
But um, the first two Info Stealers I found particularly interesting, almost more for the distribution channel than anything else. So, info stealers are very interesting because they're harvesting the data for use and reselling and for multiple purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So the first was called Cloud Chat. And it says Cloud Chat is a fairly standard macOS info stealer or macOS stealer focused on largely cryptocurrency wallets and keys. That was a common theme throughout everything, of course. Why? Money.
Mm.
However,
Yeah.
it does have a few tricks up its sleeve, such as monitoring the clipboard, presumably for things like passwords and wallet passwords, for example. Moreover, its use of Telegram as well as FTP as an exfiltration mechanism was interesting. I haven't done FTP for a few years, but I'm sure the protocol still works. I wonder how many, is it port 21s are actually open on those devices. But so that was actually distributed as a chat app. So securely chat with your friends. If you installed it, it installed the info stealer, but it was posing as a legitimate app. The second one, which was called Poseidon, is even more interesting for how it was distributed. Yes, okay, it's another info stealer, but it was distributed, at least in one of the primary ways that was documented, via a malicious Google ad. So if you searched for a particular browser, Google would serve an ad, and if you clicked on the ad, it would take you to a page that was a malicious mirror of the legitimate browser download page. You thought you were downloading and installing the browser, and they might have targeted this because they were able to get a very good URL that looked very legitimate. And anyway, but if you download the DMG, run it, it installed or it infected the computer.
Mm.
So there were a bunch of other info stealers. Oh, and Poseidon, it said, was also deployed via some cracked programs too. So if you downloaded a cracked DMG from various places, it would install this instead. There were others. Some of the names: Cthulhu Stealer, Beavertail, Pie Stealer. Some
Yeah.
other ones there. For ransomware, I thought this was funny. The ransomware example or new one was called Not Lockbit.
Okay. So
Now,
just in case you thought it was.
well, so the screen. This was why I thought this was funny, because the screen for the ransomware note says it's Lockbit, but the comment in there. But remember, the names of these are generally given by security researchers, not by
Right.
malware authors.
Yeah.
So the malware authors are aware that, here's the quote: the malware's name derives from the fact that although it attempts to masquerade as a variant of the infamous Lockbit ransomware, as noted by Phil, since the alleged Lockbit authors have been arrested, whoever is responsible for developing this malware with high probability is not Lockbit. So
safe assumption.
I thought that was funny. So that was the one. Okay, so the last one I kind of pulled a little bit out for. It was an example of a backdoor called Spectral Blur, and the main thing about this, or the reason, like this says that it was the first example of malware in 2024, but it was attributed to the DPRK. So. Okay. Macs are being targeted. So, and it said that there was no, they didn't know the distribution channel of this, and there did not seem to be persistence, but it was, it says a fairly standard backdoor that supports basic capabilities such as download, upload, and execute. Yeah. So the backdoor itself doesn't have persistence, but presumably it can download and execute something that might persist. So anyway, the article was quite long. There was a lot of other, like every one of these things had copious examples of some of the debugging. Every
one of them was a blog post in its own.
Yeah. This is
year in review.
I don't know if this is a common thing, but I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos lately where people have just taken like 15 of their videos and like concatenated them together, and now they have like a 2-hour video. And I assume there's some YouTube algorithm / monetization that goes on that is helpful with
just that makes that worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so this isn't exactly that, but it's definitely a compilation. Yeah. But anyway, great article, and worth a read if you're at all interested in the state of Mac malware.
Yeah, I will have to troll through it.
Good stuff in there.
All right, something fun?
Yeah, hit me up.
So I know we've talked many times in the past about nuclear reactors and microreactors and different types.
I would say it's an interest of especially yours. Mine too, yes. but yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I am looking forward to having a nuclear reactor to power my vehicle someday. So, Back to the Future. Let me have.
Why not?
So, anyways, this is an article about a company who has plans to bury microreactors to help them power data centers. So if you remember back in the 1950s when the US was figuring out how to do nuclear bombs, we would detonate them underground.
Sure.
So that we didn't unleash the nastiness above ground. We let our groundwater, I'm kidding, we let that be the barrier.
That's okay. We're fracking today.
Yeah. Yes. So there is a nuclear startup called Deep Fission who wants to bury a small reactor underground and use the depth of the where they bury it as a substitute for the typical tons of concrete that are required to safeguard the above ground reactors.
Interesting.
So, what this nuclear reactor, Deep Fission, would do is, it has a very small footprint, so small that it could be lowered on cables down a 30-inch. So a 30-inch, 1 mile deep borehole.
1 mile deep. That's deep.
So, they're basically, it's like, I in my head, I think there's an oil rig that's probably about 30-inch, what they're doing already off those oil rigs. They're just going to go down 1 mile and then run that down, lower that nuclear reactor on cables.
Wow.
A mile down into the ground. And it would use water, pressurized water, generate steam, turn that steam into heat, and then feed that surface to the surface by pipes running the length of the borehole. And then to maintain it, they would have to pull it up from, the mile deep, which they say it'll take about an hour or two. And they're looking at targeting between 5 and 7 cents per kilowatt hour for, being able to do this. So they're
Wow.
getting a lot of, nuclear startups. The article comments, nuclear startups are kind of having a moment, driven in part by the growing energy demand of data centers running compute-intensive workloads for AI applications.
Oh, thank you, NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you thought,
Or thank you, OpenAI.
you thought this was going to be how to get blockchain. We used to make
We used,
jokes about blockchain and,
oh,
being the 30th most power hungry entity
country.
on the planet
Yeah.
after so many countries, anyways, or whatever it was. But anyways, they plan to switch on their first reactor in 2029. 2029 is coming fast.
I have an idea for you.
Okay.
DAL-E in a smart contract. Like, can you imagine?
There's some crypto bro out there going, been there, done that. Check out my Dolly coin.
Oh my God, gracious. Sorry. Okay.
Anyways, there you go. I thought it was kind of cool. Small enough to fit down a 30-inch borehole, a mile deep. That's kind of, I think that's kind of clever, way to, hey.
And I guess if anything goes wrong, you're just like, pour that concrete down the hole and let two generations from now deal with it.
That's right. Yeah. So there you go. There you go. It's my something fun.
Mommy, why is my water blue? Sorry. I guess lots of water is blue. Mommy, why is my water green? Anyway.
I feel funny.
Okay. So I almost chose something super not fun for my something fun, but I decided that I really should have something fun. But my super not fun is, I don't know where I've been for the last 3 or 4 days or however many days, but the fires in LA are super bad. Like,
wiped out entire towns.
Like, yeah, super bad. So
I have a brother down there, and I've called him just to check in on him. They're fortunately not near him, but
So
my son actually texted me earlier. He commented, he said, "Hey, when can we donate some money to whoever's helping with the fires?" And I'm like, well,
I was going to say, Red Cross. That was going to be my something fun actually is Red Cross. So I'll maybe throw the link in here.
I did tell him that make sure you find a reputable organization, because this is also the time scammers come out in droves. Disasters like this, they can't help themselves. So
that's why
we had that conversation.
That's why I like, if I do anything, I do it with like something like the Red Cross.
Yeah, Red Cross, or a well-known agency. Go directly to their website. Don't answer a text message.
Correct.
Even if it is legit.
Correct.
So
yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
But so something that is not burning down a city, although it burned down an island, I guess. So, how about instead of a wildfire, a volcano? A volcano.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had heard about this situation before, but if you had asked me, I wouldn't have been able to say like what the year was or anything like that. But basically, in the summer of 1831, there was an enormous volcanic eruption that spewed sulfur gas into the atmosphere and made the sun appear green, purple, and blue, and caused widespread crop failure, famine, and in the northern hemisphere, it says temperatures dropped by 1 degree Celsius. There was a quote in here by Felix Mendelssohn, the German composer, who was traveling through the Alps, who said, quote, though it was summer, he wrote, quote, it is as cold as in winter. There is already deep snow on the nearest hills. So there was there's an enormous volcanic eruption in 1831 that scientists have not been able to identify where the volcano was.
Oh.
and it says it was one of the largest volcanic eruptions of the 19th century. But so one of the it says for years that they had thought that the eruption had happened around the equator, but ice cores between Greenland and Antarctica showed significantly more sulfur in that area than in Greenland than in Antarctica. Oh. So they that indicated that the eruption should have been more in the northern hemisphere. Basically, it wasn't distributed evenly. So there had been a volcano near the Philippines that had been the leading candidate, but that would have resulted in a more even distribution. So evidently years ago, samples from various volcanic islands had been sent to this lab. And they basically did a forensic analysis of the composition of the sulfur in the Greenland cores with the location of the different volcanoes. It says the Greenland ice cores included ash layers and microscopic volcanic glass. Chemical analysis of the remains matched best with existing data from Japan and the Kuril Islands. But an explosion of this magnitude, releasing, it said, 13 million metric tons of sulfur into the atmosphere, would not have gone unnoticed if it had happened in Japan. Japan was densely populated. A volcanic eruption of that magnitude would have been documented. So that left the Kuril Islands, which are evidently, it says, near enough to obliterate Japanese crops, but far enough to remain unobserved, and is in a disputed area of the Pacific, I didn't realize, between Russia and Japan. Anyway, it said they needed to find ash and glass from a local volcano with a chemical signature that matched the one in Greenland. So it said finding the match took a long time, required extensive collaboration with colleagues from Japan and Russia to get the samples. But they found, it said they called it a, quote, genuine eureka moment, that they found an exact match from this particular volcano, the Zavaritsky volcano. That sounds Russian. It says let's see. The team used radiocarbon dating to pinpoint the timeline of the volcanic ash on Simushir Island and took a sulfur isotope readings and physical measurements of the volcano's caldera. These data confirm the match, leaving Zavaritsky as, quote, the prime candidate for the seminal 1831 eruption. And a bunch of other scientists kind of confirmed with the logic, at least. So anyway, there you go. Something cool. And
okay. For a minute, I thought you were going to mention it was in Greenland. And part of me was like, well, maybe that's why a certain president wants Greenland. He's going to solve climate change by setting off a volcano. Eruption of sulfur in the atmosphere. There was a book by Neil Stephenson about pushing sulfur into the atmosphere to solve climate change.
Come on, what was the name of that book? Yes, I read it.
It was... Oh no, it doesn't immediately pop up. Termination shock. That's what it was.
Yes, totally. There you go. I haven't read a book by him for a while. When's his next book coming out? I'll have to check that out. I do like reading books by him.
He just had one out in 2024 called Polo Stan. It's in my queue to read at some point. So
Amazon is failing me. How are they not suggesting that book to me? Don't they want my money? I don't understand. Okay. Anyway, there you go.
So
donate to the Red Cross and find a volcano. That's pretty cool.
There you go.
All right.
Have a good night, John.
Talk to you later, Eric. Bye.
See ya. Bye.